What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got a favorites video for you. So today we are talking about my updated favorite ugly nail polishes. Now this is technically a part 2. I did a video years ago, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, where I shared with you my favorite ugly nail polishes. Polishes that I would consider to be ugly pretty that a lot of people do not like but I personally love. In that video I did talk about a lot of polishes and I still love every single one of those polishes, so I'm not going to be repeating any of those in this video. This is an updated version that's all of the ugly polishes that I love that I have gotten or fallen in love with since that video. So if you haven't seen that one, I'll put it up in the cards. I highly recommend checking it out first because I've got some good all-time favorites in there as well. So yeah, let's talk about it for a quick second. What exactly is an ugly nail polish? I guess it's kind of a misnomer because I personally don't think that a lot of these polishes are ugly, and I don't want anybody to be offended by my classifications here. I know a lot of people think these polishes are gorgeous. They all sell very well. When I call a polish ugly pretty, it's because I know or I've experienced people commenting about it and saying that they don't like it. So I see a lot in my comments when I love a polish that's a certain color, people are always like, oh, it looks like baby poop, or it looks like puke. Or if I'm out somewhere and somebody notices my nails, they'll be like, oh, what happened to your nails? And I'm like, oh no, it's intentional, it's the polish. And they'll be like, ooh, that's so brave of you. Or like, I would never wear a color like that. So those are the types of polishes that I am talking about. Personally, I think they're all pretty. I think they're all really cool. The majority of them are actually super creative. And I feel like the world would be very boring if we all stuck to the same classically pretty nail polishes, because that's not really what nail polish is about. I feel like it's about creative expression. And sometimes you don't want to wear a classic red cream. Sometimes you want to wear something weird. So today we are going over my top 15, and if you have watched any of my favorites videos, you know that it's never just the number that I say it is, but I always try to pick like a nice clean number, like a denomination of 5 or an even number. So I do have one polish that is technically 2 polishes. But yeah, let me get into it. The majority of these polishes are still available. I'm going to link in the comments all of the ones that I can find for you to purchase online, but we may as well just dive in because we got a lot to go over today. Alright, so I'm going to go in a little bit of a rainbow order here, so I'm going to start with the only red of the collection, which might be surprising, but this is a very funky red. This is Sinful Colors Sweet Cherry Drop. This is honestly one of multiple polishes from one collection that I thought was incredible. I believe it was holiday 2021. Sinful Colors came out with a bunch of polishes in different finishes, and one of their finishes was called Sugar Coated. This was one of those polishes in there, and it is a very textured, almost jelly-like polish. So it's a red jelly base, but then we have all of this lumpiness to it, and then we also have matte white mini glitters. And the effect that it creates, in my opinion, is almost like a sugar-coated candy. It reminds me, I don't know if anybody else ever had those little candy orange slices that were just covered in sugar. That's what this reminds me of. And I think it's such a fun idea. I think Sinful Colors overall is one of the most creative mainstream brands, generally super inexpensive, but they're also a lot harder to find. So it's definitely a struggle to get their weird collections, but I feel like they're one of the few brands that really steps outside of the box and makes polishes that people might not necessarily like, but those of us who are into something funky and a little bit weird honestly find it super refreshing. Some people think that this looks chunky and disgusting. Personally, I love textured polish. I love the way it feels. I don't wear top coat when I use textured polishes because I like feeling it and I just like that kind of rough finish. And I just think it's a creative use of a textured polish to kind of make it look like candy. The Sinful Colors that I'm going to be talking about today are probably going to be hard to find, but the rest of them should be, for the most part, still available. So I'm sorry that I'm starting on a difficult one, but I promise the vast majority of these are still available for purchase. Moving on, we've got an orange one. This is from Painted Polish and it's called Pick of the Patch. Honestly, it didn't even occur to me when I first got this polish that it would be an ugly pretty polish, but people had some strong reactions to me wearing this. It's almost like this brownish pumpkin-y yellow color, and then within that we've got a bunch of metallic flakes. So we've got purple, black, and green, and it's definitely a very Halloween-y polish. I did wear it around Halloween and I absolutely loved it. And this was also one of my first experiences with painted polish, and I found myself really loving their formula, but I just think it's such a unique and fun shade. I love Halloween-y colors, and I think that they put this together really nicely. I loved the flakes in here, and a lot of people thought it kind of looked a little barfy, but you know what? I disagree. I think it's gorgeous. Next up, we have a shade, you knew I had to mention it, China Glaze Preserved in Amber. I always talk about this Jurassic Park collection because I loved this from China Glaze. I feel like this was one of the last times that they got really creative with their polishes, and it's something that I used to actually consider to be the norm for China Glaze. China Glaze and Sinful Colors were the two brands that I was always like, these are the two brands that aren't afraid to get weird with it. But since this collection, which I think was like last spring or last summer, they just have not gotten funky with it. But this was an incredible collection. This shade in particular, I know I've talked about it a bunch on my channel. It's like this jelly amber yellow color, and it is packed with orange and yellow shimmer, and then it also has these sort of amber metallic flakes in it that are super huge. It genuinely does look like something that was preserved in amber. They took the theming of this collection and really ran with it, but I honestly think this color is so pretty. But overall, I think it has a very mixed reaction when I wear it. I think it's just because I'm very pale and already yellow, and it just makes me look kind of weird. Moving on, we've got Orly Elysian Fields, because how could I not mention this polish? I knew as soon as I got this color in the mail that this was going to be a much hated polish, because this is what I think of when I think of ugly, pretty nail polish colors. I always think of like this kind of olivey, brownish green color. I actually remember when I first opened this nail polish collection, Ryan was looking over my shoulder and he was like, oh, baby poop color. And I got so mad at him because one of my absolute pet peeves is when people refer to a nail polish as baby poop colored, even though I do like to wear the baby poop colors. So I guess I just hear it very often, but yeah, it was an amazing formula. This was actually my favorite nail polish collection of 2022. I think they just did an incredible job with every single shade, but this one was the ugliest and I love it. I love an ugly, pretty nail polish. I just think this one's very fun and unique, and it also feels very perfect for fall. Moving on, we have a shade from Zoya. This one is called Eunice, and I think this was another holiday 2021 release, and this was actually an incredible collection from Zoya. I loved all of them, but I also just loved how bold they were being with colors that people don't tend to reach for from mainstream brands. And I think this was kind of the epitome of that. It's what I like to call a Shrek green. We have this like golden yellow green shimmer running throughout, and I just thought it was really fun. I feel like it's a fun holiday color, but I could also see this being a perfect spring color and even into a summer color because of that bright shimmer. I thought it had a really nice formula, and honestly, I think this was where Zoya peaked in my mind, and I haven't really fully loved any of their collections since this one, but I feel like Zoya is another brand that used to kind of step outside the box, and now they're playing it very safe, and I don't love that. Obviously, with mainstream brands, you do want to appeal to the most amount of people possible. Ugly, pretty polishes is not going to appeal to everyone, so I totally get that, but I did love when they got a little funky. How many times am I going to say funky in this video? Next up, we have another shade from Sinful Colors. This one is called Bite. Again, I don't know if this one is currently available, but it was from their Quick Bliss collection. So they supposedly dried in a minute and they have cherry oil in them, which I guess is good for your nails. I do find that this one dries fast, but that's not why I like it. It is another green jelly, but this is more of like a lime green kind of color. And then we have a ton of shimmer in here. We've got like a purple shimmer, we've got a blue shimmer, and then we also have like a little clear bit of texture throughout. Now, when I first started wearing this polish, because I loved the color, I would wear it with top coat and even sometimes 2 coats of top coat because it was very textured. But as I wore it more, I realized I actually preferred it with the texture. So I stopped wearing top coat with it, and I found myself just loving it a lot more. I have heard from a lot of people that they bought this one and they were so disappointed because it was jelly-like, so it was a little bit on the sheer side. It was textured, so it was uncomfortable. But I feel like those are the reasons why I absolutely love it. And I also just appreciate having a green polish that has this weird colored shimmer in it. I feel like a lot of times we'll see a green either have a green shimmer in it or have a yellow or an orangey shimmer in it, and this one with the blue and purple, it just felt very different. So I thought that was really fun. I feel like it's worth it because it's really fun and Sinful Colors is also cheap. So yeah, Loved this one. Okay, I could not do this video without including Cirque Colors Groove Thing. This is another polish that I talked about so much in 2022, and I'm actually wearing it right now, although I am just wearing one coat because I wanted it to look a little bit more chartreusey. And I think this was actually the main inspiration behind me wanting to do an updated ugly favorites, because this is a funky looking color. We have a jelly green base, and I actually have been describing this as a chartreuse, but looking at it up close, I think it's actually more of that lime green color, and I think all of the shimmer in there is actually what makes it look a little bit more chartreuse, because we actually have this duochrome gold into like a coppery pink shimmer, and then we also have a scattered hollow sparkle running throughout. And I just think this is really fun. I feel like there's so many ways to wear it. Like I said, I'm wearing it in one coat now, but I love it in 2 coats. I love it in 3 coats. I just think it's so stunning and unique. And again, I love a green with a weird colored shimmer in it, and in certain lightings, my nails almost look a coppery red kind of color because of this shimmer. I really loved this polish. I loved the whole collection, the discotheque, Cosmic Discotheque, I think it was called, collection. But this was the true standout for me. This is the one that I've been wearing and the one that I absolutely love. And actually a little bit more recently, Cirque came out with a color that I likened to being a magnetic version of Groove Thing. This is called Lynx, and I also wanted to just pop this in as an honorable mention. It's not exactly the same. Again, we have that sort of lime green base, and then we have within it a magnetic golden shimmer and then also some slightly larger golden flecks in here. So it's not exactly the same color, but it's kind of the same vibe to me. So if you love Groove Thing, I think that this is a great color to get because it's like a magnetic version of it. And I also think this is a great St. Patrick's Day color. 2 gorgeous shades, had to include them both, but they're also very similar. Moving on, we have a shade from ILNP. This is called Olive Grove. And honestly, I feel like I probably shouldn't include this in this collection because I don't think anybody has told me that they don't like this color or that they think it's ugly, but I do feel like a lot of people have told me that they love how weird it is, and I think the color itself is what I would call a classic ugly pretty shade. So we've got this really yellow toned green base, and then it's absolutely packed with these yellow gold flecks, and I think it's just so dimensional. I love the ILNP formula. I think it's incredible, but I love how buildable it is. So if you really want to get all of these layers that almost look like foresty on your nails, 3 coats of this look so absolutely stunning. And again, this was from a collection that I absolutely love. I feel like I look at these polishes and I just remember how excited I was when the collection came out for them, but some of them stood out a little bit more than others, and personally, I tend to lean towards those weird, ugly, pretty colors, so this was definitely a standout for me. Next up, we have a shade from Ice Cream Nails. This is called Animalistic, and this is another shade that I've talked about a lot. I think this one came out in 2021, and it's a really interesting, almost sage green base. And then within that base, we've got a golden shimmer, but we also have a slightly larger red shimmer. And I just think this is such a funky combination of colors. I think a lot of people think that having the 2 different glitters, and I'm pretty sure the red ones are not shiny, they're like a matte glitter. I think that adds a little bit of like a textured, almost like heathered look to the polish. And I feel like a lot of people didn't like that, but I personally loved it. I thought it made it look so interesting. I love the combination of colors in this, and I love that it's a sage green base because this is the type of finish that I feel like I would expect to see from a chartreuse green. So I feel like it was just an interesting twist on that. It feels like a perfect fall color to me, and I really love the formula of it. I'm sure this polish will not be a surprise to anybody, but I also had to include China Glaze Olive to Roar, which at first glance looks like it's just going to be this nice army green kind of color, but to my surprise when I first applied it, it is textured, and it almost has this weird pickle texture to it. To me, I was thinking when I was first applying it that this kind of felt like a crocodile skin kind of texture because you can't see it. I think it's like a clear textured addition to it, but it definitely looks like pickled vibes, maybe a little bit of like an avocado look or some sort of amphibious creature, and I thought that was so cool. I can't imagine how many people must have seen this on the shelf and thought that it was an interesting green and then went home and were disgusted to find lumps in it. That is just hilarious to me, but I think that must be so cool for nail art, and it's so funny because I always say that, but I've never used it for nail art because every time I pull it out I want to wear it as a full manicure because I think it's so funky. be really great for Halloween especially because I feel like it's kind of hard to get away with wearing lumpy green nails any other time of year, but I just absolutely love this one. One day I will do nail art with it and I think it's going to be awesome, but for now I will just continue wearing it on its own. I think it's really cool. Moving on, we have a shade from Rogue Lacquer. This one is called Maze Craze. And honestly, this is probably a stretch because I look at this and I think it's so pretty, but this was actually the polish that inspired my Small Brand Sunday series, which by the way, I am still continuing. I'm in the process of trying new brands now. So once I am ready to share them, I will be continuing that series. But yeah, this is just a small indie brand and I thought this was so fun. I got it a couple of years ago and it is basically a full coverage flaky and there is so many colors in here. We've got like a greenish color, we've got a bluish color, we've got gold, and then we have these multi-chromatic blue to purple to pink to red flakes in here as well, and it is just a whole bunch of stuff and I think it is absolutely stunning. I didn't have anything like this in my collection. I was surprised and impressed with how easy it applied, especially for being so full of stuff, and I just instantly fell in love with it. I instantly fell in love with Rogue Lacquer. I feel like in general their polishes are really busy, but they're exactly the type of busy that I like. So I don't know, I just thought it was really fun and it made me want to try a bunch more indies because I was like, I've never seen a formula like this and I need to get more of it. Next up we have another shade from Orly. This is called Urban Landscape and this was from their Futurism collection, which just came out for holiday 2022. Honestly, this is a stand-in because I think every single polish in that collection was very controversial. They were all these sort of like soft, chromy polishes and they're all very streaky, they're all a little pearlized, and they were very funky and a very out there kind of release for the holidays. Although to be fair, they did have their breathable line, which I thought was very classically holiday-like, but I absolutely love this collection. I felt like it was so 90s. It reminded me of like when I was a kid and we had like our frosty blue eyeshadows and stuff, and like all of the celebrities were wearing these like chrome outfits, and I don't know, that's just the vibe that it gave me. I thought this whole collection looked absolutely stunning with matte top coat as well. So if you got them and you didn't love them, I recommend trying it with matte top coat. You might find that you like them a lot more. I don't know that it's actually my favorite because I really keep on changing my mind about which one I love more based on what I'm wearing. But I think this one's really gorgeous. I just think it's really fun. This is another collection that I think would be great for nail art, but I just keep on wanting to wear them on their own because I think they're really fun. Next up, we have Sinful Colors Turnt-quoise. And again, this is just an example from a full collection, like some of these are. This was from their sheer matte collection, which is again, another very out there type of release that they did. So we had these jelly polishes, they had a very light sparkle running throughout them, but then they dried to a matte finish. And I absolutely love that. I love sheer polishes, I love matte polishes, and I loved this whole collection. I thought it was really fun, and I think that this one ended up being my favorite of that, but I know a lot of people don't like it because again, they were not thrilled with the idea of sheer polishes. I feel like especially back then, people did not love a jelly finish. I think it's becoming more widely accepted now and people are more into it and it's a little bit trendier, but back when they released this collection, they were ahead of their time. I think if this collection came out now, it would be received a lot better, but I don't know, I just think it's fun. And I also love sheer polishes because I love that they're not streaky, so you can wear them in one coat and two coats and three coats and get a totally different look each time. I've got another Sinful Colors one. This is the last one, I promise. This is called Double Time. Again, just an example from a full collection that I absolutely loved that people hated passionately. This was their sneaker texture line of polishes, and I loved every single one, but this is probably the one that I've worn the most. It's just a really gorgeous sky blue color, but it has a sneaker texture to it. If you are curious, I would say this is a very different texture than any other textured nail polish I've used. I thought that the China Glaze pickle texture one was gonna be similar to this, but it ended up being totally different. I have still not found anything remotely close to these sneaker texture polishes, and I'm a big fan of sneakers, so I was really excited about this collection. And I really need Sinful Colors to make more of them. I need a fall and winter version of these colors because they're all very bright and summery. But yeah, it was all like workout themed, it was really cute, and I thought these were stunning. Again, probably not available because Sinful Colors is so hard to find. I wish that they had a more available formula, at least even just to buy online. But if you are lucky enough to find some Sinful colors that is one of their collections and not just like their regular line of polishes, they're usually pretty funky and very exciting. And then last but not least, we have potentially a controversial pick. This is Lacquer, Wait For Me. And honestly, this is a very thin excuse to put on an ugly pretty list because I think this is traditionally a pretty polish, but the only reason I've got it on the list is because when I did wear it last, somebody was like, oh, what happened to your nails? And I was like, oh no, it's a polish. It's supposed to look like that. And she was like, oh, ooh, I don't like that at all. So I'm just using that as an excuse to put it on the list. And again, it's just that indie style that I feel like people who aren't very well versed in nail polish or kind of just stick to the reds, the pinks, the neutrals, don't really get to experience this kind of formula, but this is a white Krelli that is packed with a multi-chromatic flake, and it looks kind of pink or red or orange or yellow in some lightings. I don't know, I thought this was a really fun fall color, but I absolutely love wearing this in one coat. So it's super sheer, but you get that full color of the multi-chrome flakes. I can totally see, like if I squint my eyes a lot, I can kind of see how it looks like it might be a messed up manicure. But personally, I think it's gorgeous. Honestly, I feel like this would be such a pretty wedding color. Is that totally off base for me to say? Because I think this was so pretty and it's like almost a little elegant, you know? Another shade, absolutely loved. So yeah, those are my top 15, technically 16, ugly favorite nail polishes, not including my original ugly favorite polishes, which I still absolutely love. And I think overall there's definitely a very heavy emphasis on the green shades, the more yellow undertone greens, because I think that that is probably the least popular nail polish color. But personally, I love it. I have always really appreciated out of the box colors, and I've always appreciated when brands went a little outside the box, which is why I think as these mainstream brands that I used to be more impressed with are going more and more safe, I find myself diving more and more into the indie brands because I think those are the brands that aren't really afraid to get weird with it because they know their audience is less likely to prefer traditional colors. So yeah, hopefully you found my list good. Like I said, the majority of these are available, so I've got them all linked down in the description. I'm sorry that they aren't all available, but I did want to show you some of these amazing Sinful color shades because I think they were very underappreciated, and I think if you manage to find them on eBay or just stumble across them in the store, you should definitely try them out. But yeah, I would love to know what your favorite ugly polishes are, so leave them all in the comments. If they're polishes that I had on here, if they're polishes that maybe I haven't even heard of, let me know in the comments and we can chat about it. And if you enjoy my favorites videos, please give this one a thumbs up. I'm definitely going to be doing more. And I also want to do an updated version of my favorites because I know I started doing an updated version with my favorite reds and then I just didn't complete the rest of the rainbow. So I will be doing more updates of those. So if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. And I do a lot of nail polish reviews and you might find something you like. And of course, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals, Rocket Man's daughter, Paula, Ken, Rosie, and Courtney. I really appreciate your support and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact question comes from Patreon supporter Bake Up Little Susie, and Bake Up Little Susie wants to know, what turn of phrase do you love so much that you use it like it's going out of style? Not necessarily a turn of phrase, but a word that I find myself overusing and have been overusing for the last like 4 years is the word vibes. I feel like there was a point in the last like 4 years or so where vibes kind of had a comeback and people were talking about vibes all the time, but I love that word. And I say it constantly. And sometimes when I'm editing my videos, I'm like, I need to stop saying vibes because I've said it like 10 times in this video. But I never stop saying it because I feel like, I don't know, sometimes there's no better way to describe something than to just get the general overall vibe of it. You know what I mean? So I do use it a lot. I used to actually have, from like, oh my gosh, 7 years ago, I had these pants that just said, like in giant letters across the side, vibes, but I don't have those anymore because they started to fall apart in the wash. So yeah, I don't think people say vibes anymore, but I'm still using it because I can't stop saying it. I don't know. Is there another word that's good to say instead of vibes sometimes? Anyway, let me know what word or phrase you overuse in the comments. We can chat about it, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye!